Welcome back. I've started working on the rudder, and this is a pre-made piece that came with the kit. And what I've done is to sand it, to round off the back, and that way give it the correct shape. I've been making sure that it also fits in the gap correctly, and that it does fit in all directions. So once I've done that, now what I've done is to cut little strips of the second planking, and according to instructions, this planking has to be done vertically with the rudder. Since the bottom part has to bend, what I've done is gone ahead and put a piece in water for about 24 hours, a little bit less, to make sure that it can bend at the bottom. So to add it, I will just put it against the place where it has to go, and just as I did with the stern, bending it into place to make sure that it fits. This will probably cause it to break a little bit, just with as with the stern, but that I can fix in the same way with the super glue. And I'll set it down, and when it's dry, I'll cut it right down the middle and keep on adding strips on this side until I complete it, and then go on the other side and fill in with more strips. And this is the plan for the time being for the rudder. Once it's done, I'll probably have to sand it down a little bit more to make sure that it fits in correctly and that it doesn't come out or it's out of shape. So that's the plan with the rudder for the time being. Okay, I've gone ahead and covered one side of the rudder with the strips. I've used 6 strips, going from the top to the bottom, covering one after the other. And the way that I've done this in the end is with some super glue. And the reason for this is that the ends have to bend very sharply and stay in place. So the first side, I went ahead and I put the strips for about an hour in water and let them soak. And then I put the strip, gluing it on, making sure, starting with this edge, and making sure that it's flush against this end. And then just sticking it on and bending the end over with my finger for about 2-3 minutes until it stays, and that way all this side is done. So what I did when that was over, I went ahead and following the line of the plywood of the first of the layer underneath, I cut it more or less at the center with razor blade. It's pretty easy to cut. And then I went ahead and sanded the edge so it would be more or less rounded. When I did that, I went ahead and I started with the second side, following exactly the same idea with the first one, now the second one. And what I do is I mark with a spare piece of plank a line where the plank should end, and mark it with a pencil. And then this is the part that I will fill in with super glue, just putting some on a spare piece of paper and with a toothpick, just filling it all in, and then I'll go ahead and glue it on. When that's done, there will be a little hangover. I make sure that I put the glue only a little bit over the edge where the other plank is, and then I trim it down and sand it down with a block to make it flush. This will leave a little bit of a hangover, but when it's all done, I'll go ahead again with the sanding block and make sure that it's rounded. With 6 pieces on each side, which is what fits, there will be a small gap probably up here since they don't quite go over the edge, but that I can fill in just as I did on the hull with a little spare piece, just making sure that fits in there, and that will also enable me to sand it flush and end with a result. This means that the rudder is a little bit oversized from the size that I need, but sanding this side and this should let me fit it right into its slot and have the correct shape. So I'll keep on doing this and I'll see what the result is. Thank you for watching. Okay, the rudder is now finished. It's completely planked in the same way as the rest of the hull. It's required 6 pieces on each one of the sides with a filler piece right at the end. And it's all been attached with super glue to be able to give it the round shape. When I finished, I sanded it down all smooth, and I've also made sure to sand down the inside part on the top and right behind, so now it fits flush with the rest of the hull. I will not be gluing it in for the time being, just leaving the piece finished and done, and probably I'll attach it when I put more pieces and probably close to the end. So now it's on to fixing the top part in preparation to add the deck planking. What I will do is, just as I did between the first planking and the second planking, is to use wood filler, thin, and cover it all up and spreading it with the same technique as before with a piece of cardboard. And then I'll sand it down, and that way these little edges will disappear and make it all smooth, so I can start later on to add the deck planking. And that is on to the next stage, and when I get that done, I will come back. Okay, this stage is now done. I've gone ahead and filled the top part up with some filler and sanded it down. It was pretty much flat and already filled, just a little bit here and at the bow. And I also went ahead as I was sanding to make sure that it's as flat as possible, taking into account that the deck should be a bit rounded, although with so much sanding, only the middle part is sanded. The front and the back is pretty much flat. And also right here at the stern, I had to sand a little bit more so you can see that there's part of the original inside wood coming out. I also went ahead and sanded the sides down using the provided sanding block, which has sandpaper of about 100. But then to smooth it down, I went ahead and with 400 grit took off a little bit more to make sure that it's as flat as possible. And all the second planking is now smooth, leaving a streamlined hull. And last part was also the transition from the rounded part here to the edge of the front. In the plans, it shows that the transition should take place around here. So I went ahead, put a mark, and sanded this so it becomes more and more rounded as it goes towards this part, and leaving the rest sharp to a point. and that means that the hull is planked, ready for the last planking, which is the deck planking that will go on top, and that is done with different um, strips, and it will be the next stage. The rudder is also complete, and I will be storing that until I make more pieces and add it in the final assembly. So the next stage will be the deck planking, and we'll see how that goes on. And when that is over, I think that the hull will be pretty much done, although to this point it looks pretty nice and ready for later stages. Thank you for watching, and when I start with the deck planking, I'll be back.